Hi, this is Richard Chamberlain. Welcome back to the Protecting Your Family's Future podcast. This is episode number 63. Today, we're going to be talking about some important elements of asset protection trusts. Last week, we talked about why people use asset protection trusts. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that one. It'll give you some good background on why these kinds of trusts are so powerful. But today, we're going to be talking about specifically how these things work, important things that you need to know before you make a decision about whether this is going to be the right kind of a tool for you. So the first thing to know is an asset protection trust like this is an irrevocable trust. That means you cannot change it. Once it's been created, it can't be changed. You can't change the beneficiaries. You can't change who the trustees are. The trust is what the trust is. And so it's important that you have the plan designed the way you want it and build in enough flexibility so that it works as things may change over time. So irrevocable trust, very important to know. The next thing to know is the most beneficial way to design this kind of a trust is that you would not be the trustee of this trust. So if you remember, a trustee is the person who's in charge of the trust, whose job it is to manage the assets of the trust and use the assets the way the trust instructs. So you cannot be the trustee of your asset protection trust. If you are the trustee, you have too much control over the assets, and you could lose the asset protection benefits that the trust is supposed to provide to you. So you need to appoint somebody else to serve as the trustee of that asset protection trust for you. The next really important thing to know is in an asset protection trust, when assets are placed into that trust, you can't get them back. You can't have the principal of the trust distributed to you. If you could have the principal of that trust distributed to you, then there is no asset protection benefits at all because your creditors, if you have the right to tell the trustee, hey, give me that asset back, your creditors can compel you to exercise that right to request or demand the assets back. And then the creditors can use those assets, take them from you, essentially. So the right to receive principal from the trust, you cannot have in that asset protection trust. Now, you can receive income distributions from the trust. We will usually allow income distributions, not always, but usually allow them. We may cut off the right to income if a person goes into a long-term care facility, but generally, if there are assets in the trust that are generating income, then we can allow the income to be paid to the trust makers. Now, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but another aspect of these trusts is if you put a home into this asset protection trust, whether it's your primary residence or a seasonal residence, you can retain the right to live in that residence. You can put provisions in there that you don't have to pay rent. Even though you don't own the house, you don't have to pay rent, but you'll generally want to put provisions in there that say that you would continue to pay the taxes and insurance and maintenance on the property. So you would continue to live in that. If you decided you didn't want to live in that residence anymore, you could have the trustee sell that residence and purchase another residence for you to live in. Still, that residence would be titled in the asset protection trust. So you do have some flexibility there in terms of living arrangements. So those are going to be the most important things to consider when you are looking at whether an asset protection trust is going to be right for you. If you have questions about any of those kinds of issues, or if you're looking at whether an asset protection trust would be appropriate in your situation, if you're in Ohio or Michigan, you can reach out to us and we'd be glad to talk to you about that and help you set up that kind of a plan for yourself. Our contact information is in the show notes, and we will see you again next week. Thanks.